Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your home for Bible study that's just like that roadside stand with the fresh vegetables, and you stop by on a lovely summer afternoon and you get some fresh corn, some fresh berries, some fresh melon, whatever that's there, and oh my goodness, it's so good. That's kind of like Daily Dose Radio. In the Bible Bistro, we have it all fresh. It's hand-picked just for you. And today, I've hand-picked for you verses 11 through 15 here in Psalm 106. Remember, we're doing this in two parts, just like we did Psalm 105. Psalm 106 is a mirror to Psalm 105. Psalm 105, we were remembering all the great things the Lord had done. It was triumphant because the Lord had cared for His people and done marvelous works to deliver them from Egypt. Now we see the other side of the coin. They didn't remember that. They remembered not the multitude of the Lord's mercies. And so even though they didn't remember the multitude of His mercies, nevertheless, remember that word nevertheless is so important here. So God acted not because of their sin, but in spite of their sin. He did something based on covenant, not on deed or merit. So they failed to remember His mercies, and they provoked Him at the Red Sea. Nevertheless, He saved them, He led them, He redeemed them. Now, the result of that salvation we're going to see today in verse 11, 12, and then we kind of slide back off into sin again. So, let's read 11 through 15. And the waters covered their enemies. There was not one of them left. Then believed they His words, they sang His praise. They soon forgat His works. They waited not for His counsel, but lusted exceedingly in the wilderness and tempted God in the desert. He gave them their request, but sent leanness into their soul. We go back to verse 11 now, and we're going to look at the result of the salvation. Verses 8, 9, and 10 tell us that God did that saving work, saved them, led them, redeemed them. And now we find out how that happened, what the result of that was. The enemies, they were delivered from their enemies, but the specifics are in verse 11. The waters covered them, and not one of them was left. Amazing, isn't it, that the writer of the Psalms is not only a creationist, but he believes in the miracles of the Bible. And so when the Red Sea parted and the people walked through on dry ground, the psalmist believes that. And when the Red Sea covered up the Egyptian army, well, the psalmist believed that too. It must be the truth if we have it more than once in the Scriptures. So here we have it, verse 11, the waters covered their enemies, there was not one of them left. So the result of salvation is the enemy has gone. Notice verse 12, we have a brief respite from provoking the Lord. I call this brief light. Verse 12, then believed they His words, they sang His praise. So here we have them believing. But notice how quickly this disappears. This fades like the morning dew. They soon forgot His works. They waited not for His counsel. Just as quickly as they believed, they forgot again. Notice again the word forgot here. In verse 6, 7, it talks about them remembering not. And then now we have them forgetting again. So this is why remembering is so important. Because when you forget, then you can do all kinds of crazy things. They waited not for His counsel. They lusted exceedingly. They tempted God in the desert. And then that's the sin because they forgot. And now look what happens. He gave them their request. Not always a good plan to get what you ask for, but sent leanness into their soul. Yeah, they lusted after it because they were hungry with their tummies, but it was their soul that suffered. And this is the first chink. This is the first paper cut. This is the first thing that God did to try to bring them back, because even though they ate and were full of quail meat, He was not pleased and they were not satisfied. All right, join me again tomorrow. We'll look at verses 16 through 19 on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.